Hi, everyone. Good morning. Hi, Hema, are you there? We're just setting it up. We'll just start in 2 minutes. I hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. Yeah, we came up with this topic largely because we've been talking to lots of leaders across the spectrum, both in India and abroad. And what we could see is every leader is today bothered about demand generation. It's very, very important that we address that, get into the bottom of it. Good morning, everyone. We'll begin now. I hope you're all keeping well and staying safe. The key question that we want to address is how do you amplify demand? And we said, how can you double your business under 12 months? Quick background, I'm Ganesh Subramanian, founder and CEO of Stylumia. We come with a good amount of track record. I was part of building India's largest online retailer. Myntra spent sufficient amount of time there building that organization along with my colleagues, from $20 million close to $1 billion. And there is a lot of learning in that journey. And we started Stylumia in 2015, and we work with over now 100 clients, one of the fastest growing fashion intelligence platform, both in India and globally. And we also work with Fortune 500 clients. All leaders, all leading retailers, online and offline in India, work with us. Now, that is just to give you a bit of our introduction. And at this point of time, with COVID around, you will be thinking, maybe asking the following questions. How can we generate more demand, right? And this is a question that we are hearing from almost everybody in the industry. How can we sell and convert them into cash? That's very important because you're sitting with a lot of inventory, and many brands and retailers sitting with close to a year of stock. It can change depending on how responsive you are and what are your cycle times. How can we be ready for a future with digital channel contribution at a level that we can significantly, one, minimize the risk in the overall business in terms of proportions of business which you get across various channels. We will address this particular area, at least touch the first principles behind generating demand in this channel. Many of you have been in this channel and we have been in touch, but it's very important to understand the first principle because I strongly believe, and we believe, that if you don't have a strong foundation, we can't build anything which will last for a time. I think it's very important to note that. Therefore, we'll spend a good amount of time on talking about first principles. And then we will move into how do we execute these first principles? What are the mechanisms that govern these first principles? That's very important. Then we'll look at a simple science and mathematics of generating business from this channel. As I do this, I would request all the viewers to please go ahead with your comments. If you have a question or a comment, this is live. You can interact with me. As you post, I can see the comment. And if I have a sufficiently good response, and I'm not covering later, I will address then and there. Otherwise, I will address your questions towards the end of this session. Hope that works with you all. So let's start with first principles. What I mean by first principles are, let's say Tesla was founded on a simple first principle. Now, the first principle here there was that can I economically make cars powered by batteries? The then philosophy, the common notion in the industry was that battery is expensive, gasoline is cheaper, therefore it will not be economically viable, right? And we all know Elon Musk went to the bottom of it and said that what constitutes a battery. He broken them down into three metals, and then he said what's the cost of these metals. Then he went to London Stock Exchange to look at the absolute cost of these metals. Then he actually did a math to figure out that if I actually buy directly these metals, construct everything, that it's not far away from gasoline. So rest all is history. So the question is asking the fundamental question of how do we generate demand, and that's what we are going to do in the first part of this session. And some of these look like common sense, and I would like you to just pay attention to this, and we are going to come out with something which will be building on these first principles very, very soon. So let me start by saying consumers buy what they need or what they want. I'm sure all of you will agree with this. And more so these days, I think need will overtake want for sure. And the second one is consumers buy products. For a moment, I'm removing the emotion side of it. Let's talk about products. And I keep saying that retail is actually simple in the sense that on one side you have consumers, on the other side you have products, and everything else is matchmaking. So we are all in the matchmaking business between consumers and products. But consumers buy products. The next one is consumers buy the best of choices they get to see at that point of time. When they have a need, they buy amongst the best of choices, which is relevant to them at that point of time. Each one of these words are very important. We will address, what does relevance means at that point of time mean. Come to that very soon. The next one, consumers buy these days in particular any versus so-called preferred. What I mean by that is, there is no four wall, and consumers have now plethora of options, and they will go for what generates maximum value for them now. For you may not have so much of stickiness of loyalty. Now, I'm not saying that will not help. All the past good work will come to you, but these are the times that people will switch, and they have high propensity to switch. So that's the next one. The next one is consumers experiment these days more than ever before. Everything is on a click. And why they will experiment more? Let's look at this, right? And today people can return if they don't like anything. So they have an opportunity to return. At least that inertia of going to a store where I bought, I have to return, etc., all that is not there. So there is a lot of friction in return which has been removed. So consumers are willing to experiment a lot more than ever before. And the cost of switching is very low. Now, the next one is consumers trust the platforms more than the brand. I might be a bit magnified on this. It's true and truer than ever before. All our products are positioned in a rectangle. It's an image and plethora of images around us. If we appeal, people click, right? So consumers trust the platform, and they trust. When I say platform, if you're selling in any of the retailers, be it Myntra, be it Flipkart, be it Amazon, be it Ajio, be any platform, or globally, you're selling in Amazon.com, you're selling in Zalando, you're selling in Zalora. All platforms, what they have done is they have built credibility. Now, I just want to amplify this with some research that we have done in my earlier stints. We ask consumers, what do you mean by brand? What do you mean by brand? And, yeah, sorry. Before that, we asked one question, say, how are you influenced? And what influences your purchase decision? And this is what consumers told us. This is with respect to fashion and lifestyle. They said, for us, what our friends say is important, which means fellow consumers, right? They listen to fellow consumers. Second, they said, we like brands. Okay, great. Then they said that we like celebrity, which is Bollywood. Then we wanted to double click. What do they mean by brand? We ourselves were not clear because we all have a perception of brand. If you go and ask anybody, whom you know, and say, tell me the brands you remember, the list is typically limited. The brands you love, not brands you remember, the list is actually very finite, 4 or 5 brands. And that too, if you sharpen to a particular category, they only remember 3 or 4. We were shocked by the response of the consumers. The consumers said, if the retailer shows something more of, and that's a brand, right? Where I worked, and we were shocked. It was shocking, right? Which means that it's the retailer who decides, what is a brand. For you can actually, if you're visible a lot more in a retailer, then you are considered as a brand by, I'm talking about India at large, right? That's very important because if you want to scale, you have to scale India at large. Now, moving on to, that's a very important insight. Let's move on. And we also talked about consumers trust other consumers, right? Therefore, it's very, very important, not about what we are saying. They trust more about the ratings and reviews that their fellow colleagues, fellow consumers are talking about your products. Next one, all the platforms, the retailers that you are working with are very, very consumer centric, because you can't win this market unless you are consumer centric. So everything they do is based on what is good for consumer, right? And of course, there is an intersection of what is good for the retailer and of course what is good for you, but nothing will move if you are not relevant, good for the consumer, right? Very important. I would put it bold, underline here. Next one is platforms, or we talked about that. The market is dynamic than ever before. Is this a static view? I do a season, I think what consumers will like, I will make all those products, put it up, and whatever sells. And now that is how fashion industry has been working for long. Now it's high time that I would just say that I think we need to flow fashion. Now, flow fashion pulled by consumers, right? Because as you can see here, all the first principles of demand, right? And I just did a word cloud here, and I could see consumer coming so big because every sentence starts with consumer, and maybe every sentence has 2-3 words around consumer. Next one is this is something very fundamental. I'm going to be touching some amount of refreshing some of your engineering side or school days or college days, right? And online creates something called a flywheel effect. I'm sure all of you would have heard about flywheel. A flywheel is a wheel where, of course, it's a wheel. It has a lot of mass, and you start cranking, pushing that wheel. It starts to rotate. Keep pushing, and keep pushing. At some point, it generates such a momentum. It generates such a momentum that it starts to run on its own. Imagine, look at how the fashion business are conducted today. They are actually, it takes a static view of the business for a particular period of time. Let's say if you're making seasonal merchandise, you're taking a very static view of that period of time and make products and expect that it will deliver, right? Now we are talking about a flywheel where you really needs to be relevant all the time. How are you going to be staying relevant all the time? It's just not product. We are just going to cover all dimensions of this. Now, it's very important for us to now look at the fundamentals of flywheel. And what does the flywheel do? The flywheel, the flywheel stores kinetic energy. Now, let me take you back to fundamentals of kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mv square. Sorry for being mathy here, but it's simple. Right now, what is and it will be very insightful. I was just shocked to see the simplicity of it. And sometimes we have our own way of running the business for so long, then we get bogged down to, we don't look at physics. So let's look at of me square. M is the mass, v is the velocity. If you want to improve kinetic energy, now what does kinetic energy means to business? You really want to be generating cash from that business. Now, if you want to, that's the kinetic energy. And the energy is towards whom? Consumer. The consumer is pulling your business towards him or her. And that, if you want to amplify, what will you touch? If you touch M, it's linear. If you touch V, which is the velocity, you get the square effect. If you touch it by one dimension, it's become 2x. You touch it by 2, it becomes 4x. For what's the mass? Mass is the resistance to change, which is your current processes, current way of working. For if you stay put on the current way of working, that will be creating a lot of inertia for the business. Therefore, more the inertia, higher the mass. Now, what do you need to touch? Therefore, you need to touch the velocity of your business. Now, velocity, I think I really want to explain what velocity means. We all know the famous story and, the success of Zara, right? And I'm a strong follower of this brand from my college days, done fair amount of research, but a lot of people try to copy Zara. But the point is, why does the copy doesn't work? Why we haven't seen many Zaras around? Now, there's a difference between velocity and speed. A lot of people actually considered Zara is fast. I think this whole fast itself is a problem, right? I think fast fashion, if you go to physics, there is something called speed and velocity. The difference between both of them is speed is a scalar and velocity is a vector. And what does that mean is speed has no direction and velocity has a direction. So let me give a simple example. Let's say we are traveling from place A to place B, and let's say we cover 5 kilometers in 1 hour. For what's our speed? 5 kilometers per hour. But imagine that distance was in the form of a circle. We travel at the same speed. For what did we achieve? We came back to square one. For if you measure, speed is 5 kilometers per hour. But what's the velocity? Velocity is 0. Velocity is the directional gain that you are getting over time. Most of fashion businesses, and I myself, I've run businesses like this. Therefore, this is nothing to blame anyone, but I think it's a time for us to reflect. We have been taking the scalar view of the business, working very, very hard to remain in the same place. You look at many metrics of fashion globally, that the full price sell-throughs of this business have not shifted significantly, purely because we have been considering this as a dead weight, and we are not considering this as a flywheel. We are not looking at kinetic energy, not the potential energy. Therefore, to make maximum out of our efforts, we need to fundamentally shift our first principles, which is to generate more kinetic energy. And I'm sure at this point of time, you're all asking, yeah, all this is fine, but how do I do that? We'll come to that very, 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 very soon. Now, I just want to take a pause here. If any one of you have any comments, please post here. And for those of you who joined just now, just to do a quick recap, we started introducing Stylumia. We've been in the business for over 4 years now, and we work with over 100 clients, with Fortune 500 clients in the portfolio. Most of leading online and offline retailers in India work with us. We talked about that the key problem today is generating demand for any leader in the fashion lifestyle business, and also how do we clear what we have in terms of pile-up of inventory and convert them into cash. Then we looked at a lot of first principles driving demand, and that's where we are. And let me move on to the execution part. How do we accomplish generating this demand, right? Therefore, for that, I would like to give you a simple view of, let's say, many a times we call demand as sales. Actually, sales is not demand. Sales is a function of what we supplied. Demand is actually, it includes sales plus what we couldn't convert, right? For the purpose of this discussion, let me call, sales and demand as same, but they're not. Simple formula for sales is, in the digital space, is the total number of impressions you're getting. What does impression means? The number of views your product is getting with consumers. So let's look at impressions multiplied by click-through rate. Out of the impressions, very few of them get clicked. So what is the CTR otherwise? Multiply that by the conversion. Conversion is when what percentage of that CTR finally gets into the cart and checkout. That's the conversion factor. Multiplied by the ASP, right? The average selling price, and multiply that by basket size. For roughly put it, that's the formula for demand. Now, if we can't impact these individual attributes, then we will not be able to amplify demand. So we did a promise on this in this particular talk that how do we double? Now, if you have to double this, what all we need to impact? Let's go one by one. Let's look at now the impressions, right? How do you get impressions, right? Lots of people are launching products. You're one of them. It's look at yourself that whenever something comes to your mind of buying, what product that do you go and buy? Therefore, let's say, for example, you want to buy a graphic t-shirt, right? Now you want to buy a graphic t-shirt, and typically it comes to your mind, these are the kind of labels or brands that do good graphics. Now, which means that you have to be sticking in the top of mind of your consumers. What that means is that if you do everything and anything and everything for everybody, you're not going to be sticking with anyone. For the first strategic angle to getting impression, you stand for something, and think about what is that one thing you can be world class at, and what is that one thing you're so passionate about, and what is that one thing that which has an economics engine which can survive for time. For if you do anything at this intersection, that you're doing something which will fly. Now, at least before flying, it will at least come in the consideration set of the consumer. For those who are watching this, I would like you to ask this question and say that what is the niche you are going after? You have to be very clear. You have to be doing one thing for one target consumer for a particular purpose, right? Now, one can define that, and that's a separate discussion by itself. Let's assume that you got your niche correct. And how do you identify that niche? These days, niche also changes with respect to the market conditions. For just to give you an example, Boeing, after Second World War, Boeing was only at that point of time making war aircrafts, right? Now, once the war is over, there's no order for their aircrafts. How do they survive? Then what they said is they have to start cranking another flywheel, which is not the niche they were going after. They completely switched to commercial aircraft. They made tweaking, etc. And today, rest all is history. Now, the question is that, many times people ask, what's my core business? This is my core. What you thought core maybe 1 year back is not the core. Therefore, you need to be constantly dynamically evaluating your strategic angle to the business and what you really stand for. Let's assume that you have got that done. Second is you have to get first strike. In a flywheel, if you miss the bus, right, and those products will not get any impressions later. Therefore, how are you going to get first strike? Now, first strike is a function of connection between your products and consumer. Now, how do you do that? In the current way of fashion forecasting, right? And, I might be going very bold here. I think it's time to throw everything we have been doing in terms of how we are researching fashion, right? Because that's killing many of the brands globally. And that's a very static view. Experts go, they collect details, dump it in one content database, and we pay dollars to use that. If you want, please continue to use it. But the question is how dynamic that is. Who in the world can now tell you 2022 summer trends, right? If somebody is giving you that with a lot of confidence, I really don't know where it is coming from. So it's very, very important for you to be now looking at a dynamic view of how do we connect with the consumer. Therefore, what you need is a dynamic research of consumer pulse on products, not the static views. Any static view, please question. Please ask people to rationalize. Why do you think that this will do well? If you can't have anything backing that up, I'm not saying don't do anything different. Please do everything different, but we can innovate within boundaries. You can make a fantastic dress, which is new, but using a lot of insights where you have put concoction of attributes which are very relevant to the consumer. For take a consumer driven approach to the product decisions for you to stay relevant. Take a consumer driven approach to pricing and promotion, because it's just not product. You also need to get your pricing and promotions right. And the market is very, very dynamic. Now you can have your own walls, right? But having said that, within the walls, how dynamic are you? How frequently are you looking at? Frequently are you looking at what's working, what's not working? Are you just giving promotions and discounts based on what the retailer asks you to give? Then you are not dynamic enough. You really need to do all the groundwork. And today, technology is available to do all of that. And you need to take a position and change as frequently as possible. Why not week? Why not daily? Why not weekly? As frequently as possible, I would suggest. And take a consumer driven approach to content and imagery. Now, here I want to pass and actually tell you that in the digital medium, who's the salesperson? The salesperson is just your image and all the content which is attached. Now, I'll go a bit into detail of this because this is important. You might get your product right, but if you don't get your imagery and content right, you will not be discoverable. If you're not discoverable, then you will not get impressions, right? That's the starting point of the funnel. For then you lost it on word go. And many brands and retailers that we have seen that this is still a clerical work. We just finish our masters. It's not about finishing. It's about romancing this master. It's about making content in a way which is relevant to consumer. Now, again, it's not about, when I say romancing, is how good you feel with the style note. No, it's all about how good is relevant to the terminology of the consumer. It's not, we are not writing something for manufacturer. We're writing something for consumer. I'm not undermining all the efforts already done. We see that there is a huge amount of headroom here. If you get some of these fundamentals right. Now, here also, how do you know what is the right way to write? I want to write, it's okay, I'll want to start it. But now for that, you need to know what are the winning propositions in the market, right? You need a solution for that. Once you know winning proposition, then you can find out what are the winning text. You can find out what are the winning text to be used, both in the description, the style note, product attributes, in all of those areas. That's an actually engine by itself. And of course, getting your shoot right and relevant. For content is very, very important. And the next one is, you can do all of this, but we may not get everything right, but we need to have a good listening of what's the response to what we are doing, right? And how are you responding to, see, customers can respond to you in various forms. You shipped an item, they're returning more of it, which means that there is a feedback coming in, listen to that. There is a lot of reviews and ratings which are happening in many of the platforms today, but how are you dynamically analyzing them, looking at the sentiment of it, looking at the keywords of it, and then say that, okay, I need to improve. I need to improve these products. There are some products you need to delist, and you say great companies stop some of the products consumers don't like. They pull back products. For how many products have you pulled back from the system because consumers don't like? Very less in fashion that we see. We see that companies like Johnson & Johnson and Medicare, you see that, they pull off some medicine because it impacts their life. Now, why not fashion brands do that? Now, that's taking to that extreme. But if you just look at, just to sum up, just impression alone, so much you need to do. Take care of your first strike with dynamic intelligence. Get your niche right. Have a consumer-driven approach to product decisions, pricing, promotion decisions. We talked about selection and also selection width, how much you need to expose to the customer. This is also equally important. And get your content and imagery right. And I still remember somebody told me in the early part of my career and said that retail is all about availability. And I can't disagree with that more, right? Now, you need to have availability of your products, because if your product is not available, and it'll have a poor experience for your customers, and hence it starts dropping in terms of impressions. Of course, if it's a product you want to by design discontinue, it's fine, availability. Well, availability is also coming out of your planning demand quantity. Right now, we focus so much about quality of products. We need to get our quantity of products also right. So get your quantity estimation right. Today, technology is available where you can do prediction of what could be a demand of a new product. And if you bring all of that, then what happens is you got your quality right. Now you got your quantity right, and you're optimizing your availability. Not just this, right? You can look at inorganic way of creating impressions, right? You can do marketing. You can do intra retailer marketing, where pay per click or whichever method you're using to push up your visibility. Yes, that's the next one. But I would consider that you look at first the organic impressions and then the inorganic impressions. Both helps, and definitely retailers look at both of these to give overall visibility to you. And just want to remind you that retailers are only bothered about consumers. If your products don't connect, if they don't click through more, if they don't sell more, and if they don't have good ratings, and if they have less returns, then they like those products, and then they keep pumping that up. So the next one in that formula was impressions multiplied by CTR. Now, what does CTR gets impacted by? Just look at it. You're just seeing a lot of products, and which one do you typically click? It meets the consumer product match, right? It matches the consumer product real time. I really want you to bold underline this. It's a real time match of that consumer and that product. What does that mean is, are you relevant now? Right? That's why I go back, right? If you don't have insta relevance, I would call it, or real time relevance, that we will not be able to win in this channel as much we win in other channels. And I think the nature is going to change across channels very soon post COVID, with the customer habit changing. For that, you can't be working in the seasonal silos anymore. Well, again, I want you to go back and check. It's not about making fast products. Now it's about making products in the right direction, which is oriented to consumer. Move on to the next one, the formula, which is conversion, right? Conversion happens when it's a reflection of real-time relevance and niche specific proposition, right? Nobody will pay money unless it solves the problem just now for me and satisfying all of the other needs, right? For within the niche that you're operating, you are the best to go for, right? Well, that's why I'm saying strategically ensuring that you are playing the right niche. And this is also can be data driven, because one can actually choose where are you. One can analyze today, where are you playing, what's the market around you, do you have a clear niche, or you are an average player there, or is there a game you can play world class or India class? That's something that one can actually arrive at. So that's a lot one can do there also. So that's the last bit on conversion. And then ASP. Here again, you're getting the price again relevant, right? Connect with what the consumer is willing to pay. So there is something called, at least from my experience, that whenever you ask anybody, and I played the other side of the business, whenever you ask many brands and labels, and you say that, you're going in for a promotion, we want this offer, immediately we get approval. Very few people actually fight for it. What's the science of pricing? Where is the science of pricing? I think every okay you are saying is purely based that my customer is asking me, therefore I'm giving. Very rarely you get an objection, which means that we are not doing science of pricing, where you can look at what's an optimal price for your products in the niche that you're operating, so that you don't lose much, right? Many a times you put money on the table. I'm not saying discount or promotions are not required, but how much of science are you using, right? You do not just listen to what the platform is saying. Of course, platform wants to have consistency, platform wants to have maximum participation. All that is good, so that they get an overall momentum and flywheel for the platform. Is that flywheel relevant for you in your niche? Is that relevant? Is something that you really need to think, and a lot of data driven decisions there is going to help you there. And then look at the basket size. Now, basket size is a function of how much of complementary products that you have, right? And people have various ways of showcasing that. In the PDP, you can see relevant products. If your brand has a lot of associated business with other product categories, you can actually amplify that too. That's a function of your architecture of your business, right? So far, what we looked at was, what are the first principles of demand generation? Then we looked at what are the principles which can actually double your business. We looked at the kinetic energy angle to it and velocity angle to your business, not a static angle to your business. Then we looked at what are the various factors getting into generating revenue, right? Now, in that context, and I just want to talk about some, reason to believe, some case studies, etc., where we have been working with lots of branches. We want to show you, maybe share with you 2-3 case studies where Cult Gear, when they came to the business, they were only doing fitness, and then later on they started their apparel arm of it. It's called Cult Gear, a part of Cure Fit. They were very clear that they wanted to get to the market right first time, right? And using our intelligence platform, Cult Gear was able to get it as sharp as possible in their first go. And the head of design recently spoke to us and say that they were debating about what kind of stripes to do and what kind of ombre to do, and there was disagreement internally, and then they looked at the platform, took the call, and became bestsellers. Now I'll just come to what bestsellers can really do for your business in a bit. One of our customers, Femilla, they increased their retailer adoption in their wholesale business by 200%. Right? When they used to take 100 styles, they used to get an adoption of 30, 35 styles. Same 100 styles, now they are getting 70 plus adoption, right? Now, if you're talking about jumping business with the same effort, amplification on the wholesale and the retail side, customers like Veramoda and Myntra generated 70% more than 70% bestsellers. And typically in fashion business, when you put 100, how many bestsellers do you get? Close to around 20%, 25% of your business are bestsellers, right? Amplify your bestsellers in the overall business. Now, let's quickly come to what bestsellers can do for your business, right? Now, what are bestsellers? Bestsellers are products which typically sell 5 to 10x of your average, right? What that means is if you increase 10% of your bestsellers, right, and 10x, you've actually doubled your business, right? Now, the question here is that how do I improve bestsellers? For it's not a one simple activity, right? For like we have discussed, it's a holistic approach to solving this. Rather than just listing your products on online and wait and wish that it sells very well, that's one approach. It will consume a lot of your time and energy. Now, the question is, if you're a serious entrepreneur or a CEO or a leader in any business right now, you want to amplify a business with less of effort. You want to get into the science of running this business, right? You can definitely amplify your bestsellers, but you need to do multiple things, right? For what it calls for is, if I have to just sum up and say that we have to run this business like a scientist, we need to look at brutal facts, right? What's happening, and then continuously respond, right? And of course, can start with a hypothesis. So it has a both strategic angle to it and tactical angle to it and a dynamism to it. So it's not a one-time effort that you do it and then things will be all right. And it's also not a one seasonal effort. Cuts across various angles of merchandise, marketing, content, right? And your strategy, right? If you're looking at the niche and whether you're getting that right, right? And we considering all of this, and we got a lot of requests that can you guys help us, right? For we have recently launched an initiative. It's called Stylumia Axel. Axel is AXEL, refers to accelerate. How do we accelerate your digital business, right? Here it's an assisted program. It's not throwing some tool at you, etc. We work with you. It covers from a strategic angle, getting your niche right, to managing your products, managing your marketing, to content, right through the entire life cycle of your business, and handhold you to ensure that you amplify that digital business. For we have a very restricted intake of only 10 businesses in this cohort 1. We just announced it yesterday. In case you consider increasing and amplifying your digital business, you may reach out to us. We go through an evaluation process. We're going to post the form, a form where it is required to understand your business deeply. Then you can schedule a call with us, and then we will let you know whether you're going through the cohort 1. Once the cohort 1 is done, we will start cohort 2. But we'll announce that as and when that happens. And at this point of time, I would like to just look at any questions that has come up. I have a question from Shivani. Let me put it on the screen. I hope all of you are able to see it. Do you have data points to illustrate the impact of these levers on direct sale, visibility, word of mouth, ratings, reviews, platform presence, etc. Right. Now, I think it's a very good question. I think what you're talking about is, the dish is great. Can you tell me the impact of sugar, the impact of the material used in that recipe? Yes, it's a concoction of all of this. In fact, you can reach out to us. We'll tell you what is the weightage typically given to various attributes. While it might be constant, it may be different across various platforms. Our Stylemia engine, figures all of this out, where you can actually sit and watch on your desktop or your mobile what are the winning trends, winning products, winning attributes by various different platforms on a real time basis. Right? Just to give you, for example, visibility is an outcome. Right? I want to split whatever you asked into two parts. Visibility is an outcome. Word of mouth is an indirect factor which gets into the algorithm of these retailers. It's very important because sometimes you go and see a 3.5 rating product actually is a top seller, right? And not necessarily that you can say 5-star is a great product, etc. It's a combination of multiple factors, but I would say at a very high level, maybe below 3.5 is actually there is something really wrong with that product, right? And ratings and reviews, yes, I just talked about it. Then one is to look at a holistic view of this, and the second is to say nuance of each one of this, right? How many reviews have you actually read and understood the key words and what's the word cloud there? For example, maybe there is a product that you have launched, and people might say in various comments that there is a harsh feel, right? Now, the question here is that if you picked up the harsh feel, you worked on the fabric and put it up, and that's real benefit of all of this. And that also is dynamic. I think, again, in our program, we will cover all of this, where we take the brand or a business through in entirety of how we can create a flywheel which keeps rolling in all of these dimensions. What do you do with the ratings and reviews? How frequently you should review? What do you do with it? All of that we will cover. And the platform presence is something that I understand that you're talking about. Visibility. There are two types of visibility. One is you partner with the retailer and then push. Very few people can do that, and maybe you are a mega brand, you want to do it. There also, I think you really need to understand that how can you use some of the mechanism available intra website to amplify, right? And marketing will come as a sweetener on top. I think that's not the only way, but you need to connect your product, price, promotion, proposition, niche, all that, right? Because then a lot of these get taken care, and that can come and just take it to the next level. Thanks, Shivani. That was a great question. And I'd like to move on to the next question. Deepak has asked, let me put that up on the screen. Absolutely, Deepak. Availability is so important, but the availability is looked at from a very transactional perspective. If you just go behind why there is less availability or a more availability, availability has two edges of a sword. Now, one side is overstocking, and the other side is understocking. We always talk about the understock and say I've lost business, etc. Maybe sometimes it's better than having the other side. For if you look to the next level, why are we having overstock and understock? We are having the process of identifying how much we will sell in a product today is very unscientific. What I mean by unscientific is we start to place bets on how 10 people feel about a product, right? And now, hence, today, how much of a human memory can understand the demand of a product? I'm not saying that the expertise helps, but it's very, very important for us. When you make 500 products, 1,000 products, 700 cities you sell, how do you even figure out, where will it work, where will not work? Maybe it's a bestseller somewhere, it's a worst seller somewhere, and you incidentally happen to visit the worst seller, see the data that way, then you get biased to that. I think we really need to remove a lot of guesswork and bias from our decision making. For we built something called, I would call it the predict the unpredictable, where we have built a prediction model which can help you predict demand of a new product you're going to launch, which you have never done before. And that's one of the most challenging problems. And we work with lots of brands and retailers using this and minimize the quantity variation risk, right? It's very important. You can get the right product, but you can make it in right quantity. But just to impress on this point, I keep telling, and I'm sure some of you might be bored with this, there is no bad product if you made the right quantity. I want to repeat, there is no bad product when you made the right quantity. You look at any metric, it will pass all the metrics if you made the right quantity, right? I think it's very important for us to sense at a very nuanced level of what would be a demand of a product. So that's my response to getting that availability right. Thanks, Deepak. Great question. Deepak had another question. How do I know a bestseller will remain a bestseller for how long, right? Uh, Very good question and very practical, right? And we have seen a lot of people trying to milk some of the platforms, give past performance to that. Now, it's I would say this, right? As long as you can milk from a style, I think you should do. But having said that, it again depends on your strategy and the niche. Where you really want, see, something sometimes what is called cannibalization happens, and that also can be done scientifically, where a presence of a product can impact the potential sale of another product, right? Therefore, you need to look at cannibalization of what you do, and you should constantly monitor the trajectory of this, not just with your own data. And that's it's a very interesting point that I would like to bring here. Is most of us are analyzing our own data to hell. Now the point is that you are a small fish in a large pond, irrespective of how big your brand is, right? Now, if you really want to get the pulse of the consumer, right, you need to analyzing the market. Now, how do you analyze the market? You don't have data of it. So what we bring is, we also bring a complete understanding of the market real time to you. For you might have be continuing a product, see, many times we are bored with the product than the consumer. So I would like to say that also. And you need to look at the market and say, how does at a higher level these kind of products are working or not working? If you see that they are flashing well and they are in the top deck, and then there is a good chance for you to continue. And in Stylomia, you can also get time trend of all of this to see whether they're going up or coming down. So you can milk the market, not just with your data, also with a holistic consumer intelligence, right? So that's great. And any more questions? Yeah, please post. It was wonderful talking to you. For those who have recently come, maybe I would like to summarize maybe one takeaway for all of you today is, I think it's the how do we build the kinetic energy in our business? How do we build a flywheel which can keep rolling? How do we build a dynamic engine, not a static engine, right? I really want all of you to seriously look at, right? Don't go by what your peers are doing in the industry. I think we have reached far enough with that, right? Many people come and ask us and say that, who else is using this? Today, if you are using something everybody else is using, I'm telling you, you are already in the ocean, right? So start experimenting. This is the time for experimentation. Experiments may not work immediately. Like, be a scientist. If you are afraid of experiments, I think we will not innovate. So I would leave that with you. Wish you all building a great flywheel, a great kinetic energy. Use this opportunity to scale your business, not looking at curtailing it. There's a phenomenal opportunity to reinvent and digitally transform any fashion brand or retailer anywhere in the world. And in case you are interested in our program, and we'll be posting the form and also a link to schedule a discussion with us. We'll be more than happy to interact with you. Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful talking to all of you. I hope you found the content very relevant. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Bye-bye.